Hi, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. A little 3 o'clock webinar. I feel like this is our earliest one, but I know that Laurel and Rose Ellen have to get out at 3:45, so I wanted to get as much as in as we can on this day. So I'm happy to have Fordham University here today, right over the Hudson from where I am in Hoboken and for where many of you are in northern New Jersey. Two great campuses, one awesome city, of course. So I'm going to have them talk about Fordham University and everything about that, their campus life, academics, admissions, and maybe how things, have changed with the admission cycle this year. And then I will give them questions to answer at the very end. So definitely send them our way. And I will hand it over to Rose Ellen, who will introduce herself, and then Laurel, you can chime in and we'll keep the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenna. So as mentioned, my name is Rose Leo. I am part of the admission staff, or specifically rather at the Rose Hill campus, but I've been part of the admission team for, I think it's over 7 years now. One of the benefits that you all have of learning about Fordham today is both Laurel and I are Fordham grads. So I was at the Rose Hill campus for my undergraduate, and then I went to the Lincoln Center campus for my graduate work in the School of Education. So I've been with Fordham for over 14 years now, and there's certainly a reason why I'm still at Fordham, even though we're not physically on campus because of everything that's gone on. So it's really great to be here with you all and to have you learn more about Fordham. And of course, being that you have two graduates from the university, I think that's definitely an added bonus. We will certainly address how this upcoming year will be very different for you as well as for us from the admission standpoint. And so we'll get into that in a little bit later, but I'm going to turn it over to Laurel to introduce herself as well.
Thanks. Yep, my name is Laurel. I am originally from Florida. I'm actually down in Florida right now. I wish you could see my view. I'm looking right out at the ocean, so it's not the worst place to be. I attended Fordham and graduated in 2016, and then I moved down to Nashville and did my graduate work in education at Vanderbilt. And then I worked at Columbia for a year in admission, and now I'm back at Fordham in admission. And just like Rose said, there's a reason we keep coming back. It's a very happy place for us, a really welcoming community, and a place that we just love to be involved with. So hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions, and of course we'll provide our contact information if you need anything from us after. But in New Jersey, I mostly cover high schools in Bergen County and Middlesex County. So if you go to schools in either of those counties, I will definitely be the person you want to talk to.
And that's a great point, Laurel. I completely brushed over my set of territories. So I too recruit locally throughout New Jersey. I have basically all the counties except for Bergen, Middlesex, Burlington, the Shore Point. So I don't have Monmouth, I don't have Ocean counties, but kind of everything in between central New Jersey, that's me. So yeah, definitely feel free to contact me after if you're one of my students, if you will. So yeah, so we'll go over an overview, if that's okay, Jenna. We'll go over the two campuses, student life, and admission, and what this year in particular will look like. So as mentioned, we are one university. We're one of 27 Jesuit institutions in the United States. We are the only Jesuit University of New York, which is a distinction right there. We also have two campuses, as Jenna mentioned, which is definitely a plus. We have our original campus in the Bronx called our Rose Hill campus. It's more of a traditional college-looking 85-acre campus, a lot of green space, Gothic architecture. It's what a lot of people would think about when they think of a traditional college campus environment. 20 minutes south in the heart of Manhattan, we have our Lincoln Center campus, and this 8-acre vertical campus is definitely more urban. You're in the hustle and bustle of New York City. The campus is smaller, the student body is smaller, a little less than 3,000 students. Up at Rose Hill, we have just shy of 7,000 students. So certainly differences in programs, location, size of the campus, and some other distinctions, such as athletic facilities being exclusive to the Rose Hill campus. Our Division I athletics facilities are all housed at our Rose Hill campus. So that's a brief overview of kind of the differences between the two campuses. Programmatically, we have both the Fordham College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at both the Rose Hill and Lincoln Center campuses. We also have the Gabelli School of Business, where your more traditional business majors are at the Rose Hill campus. We have a global business program down at Lincoln Center, which launched in the fall of 2014. So still fairly new, but certainly something where we were able to gauge the student interest and job market of that particular program to have 3 concentrations for students to choose from, earning a Bachelor of Science in Global Business in one of 3 concentrations. So, you know, a little bit different if you know that, you know, you want to be in the city, if you want a particular program that might tie you to one campus over the other. So environment, program, of course, size of campus. Those are some things to consider when you're thinking about Fordham, because when you apply, you'll apply to one campus and you'll apply to one college at that campus. And so I'm going to turn it over to Laurel. So whatever Laurel wants to add to what I've mentioned, and then maybe we could segue into student life. If you want to take it from here.
Yeah.
We'll kind of tag team.
Yeah, so I would definitely, agree definitely with everything that Rose has said. The campuses are pretty different, but you'll find kind of similar students with similar values across the campuses. And I know that some questions had come in prior to the webinar about just kind of how going test optional is going to affect Fordham and our different admission criteria. So I'm sure we'll get some more questions about that, but I think we can kind of talk about that as it relates to campuses as well. At Fordham, we're going to look at you holistically, no matter which college or which campus you're applying to. So you will choose a college and you'll choose a campus like Rose said, but we're going to be looking for very similar things across all different combinations of those. The only time that we're going to look a little more closely at math is if you're applying to the business school, just because it has more of a math heavy curriculum there. But we are a holistic review school. So what that really means for us is, as we're going through our admission requirements, we're going to ask for an essay, we're going to ask for your transcripts, anything on the Common App that they would regularly ask for. But we're going to look at it all and take it all into consideration. We don't have cutoffs at Fordham. We don't have a certain GPA that you have to meet. We don't have a certain ACT or SAT score that you have to meet to be considered. We're going to look at everything because we really do want to get to know you as a whole person, so that we can kind of shape our community to bring in people who care about each other and who want to learn from each other. So we can talk more about the admission process a little bit later if you all have questions, but I think that's important to mention, especially as it relates to the colleges and campuses, is there's not much difference between them at all. So it's just kind of a box that you check: Lincoln Center or Rose Hill, and then business or liberal arts.
Yep. Now, overall, no matter what academic program you decide to go for, you know, there are other distinctions, you know, at Fordham University that sets us apart, I would say, from other institutions, aside from our Jesuit identity. So, you know, benefits of being in New York City for a whole host of reasons. But first and foremost, internships are definitely something where, you know, you come to Fordham and it's not if you're going to be able to land an internship. It's really, what kind of internship are you looking for? What type of experience? If you leave Fordham without an internship, it's not because it wasn't available to you. It was because, you know, maybe you were a Division I athlete and so you couldn't have an internship, or you had so many on-campus employment positions that maybe it didn't lend itself to having an internship on, you know, during the academic year. But really, internships are so available to our students. In fact, at least 80% of students will have an internship. Probably that percentage is up a little bit from that this past year, just because of the nature of over 2,000 plus employers who will consistently offer our students internships. The benefit of being in New York, in the city, or right outside of the city, as a college student, lends the opportunity for you to have a full course load as well as an internship. You could have an internship for credit. or not for class. You could be paid or unpaid. Our Office of Career Services does really a phenomenal job with assisting students in finding what their passions are and what they could potentially see themselves doing with their time at Fordham. And the great thing about internships is you do not have to be in a particular major to land an internship in that field. So for example, a perfect example would be that we do not have criminal justice as a major at Fordham. But a student might be really interested in going into investigative work. Maybe they want to work for the FBI. Maybe they want to be a forensic psychologist. All of these things. We can get you the internships. We have, over a dozen Fordham grads who work in the New York FBI office, who work for the CIA, or in other government agencies. Internships and research experience that could lend you the opportunity to, work in a lab if you're interested in forensics, working on campus, working off campus, whatever the case is for research. Research is another huge area for our undergraduate students. We have about, how many, Laurel? About 350 undergrads who participate in the undergraduate research symposia each spring. It's a great opportunity for students to conduct research either on or off campus. We partner with New York, Albert Einstein School of Medicine, New York Botanical Garden, the Bronx Zoo, and other outside constituents for our students to have research opportunities. Students may find themselves receiving a grant to conduct research on campus during the summer alongside faculty, living on campus for free, perhaps. And so research is another huge component of Fordham being a full research university. And, just to go back to the career advancement in terms of internships and career fairs, you might say to yourself, well, how did students who were graduating this year, the seniors, how did they get jobs? Like, how are they faring in the job market with COVID? Completely valid question, and I think pretty appropriate given where we are. And I would say that career services, I was blown away to hear of the success of this, but they were able to host virtual career fair and internship fairs, and specific to each area. So like STEM, business, nonprofit, etc. And really, they were able to get that off the ground, which is pretty neat given the unusual circumstances we're all in right now. So that was successful. If maybe, Laurel, you want to talk about the other highlights that we have at Fordham, maybe some pre-professional programs, and some other distinctions.
Yeah, I definitely think within student life, Rose brings up such a good point about being in New York City. I remember when I toured Fordham, my tour guide told me that she was interning at CNN, so she was going to go into the city later that day to go to her internship at CNN. And I honestly thought she was making it up, because I'm from such a small town that was just like so hard for me to believe that someone who's only a year older than me could be working at CNN. But I definitely found that to be true at Fordham. Almost all of my friends were working at places that I just could never have imagined. I had a friend who was working at Live with Kelly and Michael at the time. I had a friend who was working at Animal Planet. I had a friend who was working at Rachel Ray. Clearly, I was friends with a lot of communication majors, but it really is such a great place to be when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, because there are just so many options. And I think that's really important, especially at Fordham. We have a lot of students who come to Fordham who are undecided in what they want to study. So we're really helpful in that way with our core curriculum, where you'll be given classes that you have to take to graduate from Fordham, but you can always cater them to your interests. So there will be like a philosophy class that you have to take, or an anthropology class, and you can kind of customize those to kind of see what you're interested in, and maybe find out something that you just didn't even know that you were interested in. So I think that's really helpful for students coming in. If you don't know what you want to study, Fordham is very, very helpful. I was completely undecided, so I looked for schools that were good at kind of directing students that way. And I found majors and a minor that I loved. So that's always really helpful. But Rose also brings up a good point for people who do know what they want to study. And if it is something like pre-law or pre-med, we do have those pre-professional tracks as well. So any of our pre-professional tracks at Fordham are not majors, but they're kind of tacked on to your studies. So if you want to be a doctor, a dentist, a vet, you would be in our pre-health track, where you'll take your classes for whatever major you choose, but you'll also meet with a pre-health advisor who will help you get ready for the MCAT, who will have different prep classes with you, help connect you to research opportunities. So definitely check out our pre-professional tracks online if you know what you want to do and if that's of interest to you. But at Fordham, those are never going to be a major. They'll just kind of be a complement to what you're studying, and you'll be welcome to major in anything that you want. But I do think it's so great at Fordham that we're so welcoming and helpful to students who don't know what they want to study, because it's a really big choice to make when you're just graduating high school, to try to know what you want to do 4 years from then. So I really liked that aspect of studying at Fordham and taking classes there. And it helped me to meet people who I would have never met, because I was just taking these classes to try to find out what I wanted to do. But I can talk a little bit about another big component of Fordham student life, which is service and social justice. I think that's really woven into the Jesuit identity and into all Fordham students. There's definitely a common thread between the students that we bring onto campus, that they kind of just want to learn from each other. They want to learn about the world. They want to make a positive impact however they can. So no matter if you're in the business school or if you're working towards eventually being a social worker, Fordham will always kind of give you a global lens to understand your place in the world and the impact that you have, no matter where you are. So a lot of our students do complete some type of service while they're at Fordham, whether that be a 1-week service project somewhere in the US. We also have international service projects where you can go to places like South Africa, Chile, all these different places to kind of just learn about different cultures. And we offer that during the spring, summer, and winter breaks. So those are really popular with our students, but we also have a really well integrated Center for Civic Engaged Learning at Fordham. So you'll be able to kind of get involved with the Bronx community if you're at the Rose Hill campus, or you'll be able to get involved with the Manhattan community if you're down at Lincoln Center, to kind of just get to know the area that you live in and leave a positive impact while you're there. So that's really popular for our students, and something that I think you'll see throughout Fordham in your classes as well.
Thanks, Laurel. You touched upon a lot of great points, specifically about how our Jesuit tradition and identity is woven into not only the academics with having a strong liberal arts core curriculum, but also outside of the classroom with that, our CSAL office, in other ways for students to get involved, whether that be global outreach trips or in other capacities. So there was a question in the chat box about internally transferring, whether that be you need to switch campuses because of a major, or maybe you just decided that the other campus is right for you after being at Fordham. And so that's actually a great question. And when we did our overview of the two campuses, to add on to that, students can take class at the other campus. And so while we mentioned that there are some programs that are offered specifically at one campus versus the other, the majority of majors and programs are offered at both campuses. And so when students choose a campus, they purely choose their campus for the most part on environment. And so those things that I mentioned earlier in the presentation of, aesthetics, what do you want your campus to look like? How large or small do you want your campus? Our average class size is about 24 across the two campuses, but you can imagine that at Lincoln Center, because our student body is even smaller, that, the class size could be even smaller than that. While you can't double major across colleges, you can cross minor across the colleges. So for example, I majored in psychology at Rose Hill. If I wanted to take a really neat fashion studies minor that's only offered at Lincoln Center, I can completely do that, no problem. I would build into my schedule travel time to the other campus and vice versa. If let's say we have a theater major at the Lincoln Center campus who wants to take a minor in business up at Rose Hill, or they want to take another minor that's purely offered at Rose Hill or even at Lincoln Center, they can do that as well. We have, I would say that our two campuses are pretty transient. We have about probably about a quarter, maybe a little bit more, of students who will choose to take campus or classes at the other campus. We have what's called, for those of you who may not know, the RAM van. It's our inter-campus transportation shuttle. I have to say that slowly, otherwise I might fumble on the words there. It's really a great way for students to get door-to-door service from one campus to the other. When students are typically on campus, so not in a COVID situation this past spring, for example, when we haven't had students on campus, it is a student-run van and shuttle system. So it's probably, I think, the best paying job, maybe, Laurel, you might know this, of a student at Fordham. I think they get paid pretty well to be RAM van drivers, especially if you do the late night shift on weekends. Added a couple of added bucks there for you each hour. But anyway, I digress. But students will build into their schedule travel time to go to and from the other campus if it's for class purposes, or if you're receiving credit for an internship. The RAM van is free. Otherwise, it's $3.50. It runs until midnight during the week, I believe, and about 2 or 4 a.m. during the weekends. But a great perk for students looking to experience, either from the academic standpoint or extracurricular standpoint, the other campus, or if they just want to go in and out of the city with ease. But so to your point, whoever asked that question about, could you switch your major and could you switch to the other campus and or college? The answer is yes, we have an internal transfer process. And so if you come to Fordham and you realize, ooh, I think I'm in the wrong college, or oops, I think I'm at the wrong campus, you can apply internally as to transfer. If you're looking to, live at the other campus with housing, then it'll be on a space available basis in our residence halls. You'll meet with your advisor. Laurel mentioned, advising, and if you don't know what you want to major in, the beauty of a core curriculum is that you usually take that your first 2 years at Fordham. I came in intending to major in political science, and it wasn't until I had a really cool intro to psych class with a focus on neuroscience that I decided, I think I'm going to be switching to psychology as my major. That wasn't until sophomore year. And like I said, I was intending on majoring in political science. So I took a little bit, probably a few too many poli-sci classes where it's, it set me back just a little bit, but not too much. Put it this way, I didn't really have time to minor in anything. So I was able to go through my major as a psychology major, no problem, and meet all my requirements with 4 years. But certainly, if you've decided, I think I made a mistake and I need to be in the other college and or campus, there is a process to do that. And even and we'll talk about this when we talk about the application process in a few minutes, even when you're applying to Fordham and you decide from the time you've submitted your application to the, any other significant, point before you decide to enroll at Fordham, there are processes in place where you can transfer or make an exception, or you say, I made a mistake and I need to apply to a different college or campus via the admission office. So great question. Probably a little more detail than you may have wanted, but important for you to know that the two campuses are transient and students will navigate, from one to the other for various reasons. And we have the RAM van as one of many modes of transportation for you to get.
Yeah, I would definitely say that students, even if you're not taking a class at the other campus, you'll end up there for an event, or even I remember when I would come back from a Broadway show, we're right by Hell's Kitchen at Lincoln Center. So I'd be coming up from Times Square and I would just stop to run in to go to the bathroom at Lincoln Center before getting on the Ram van. So it's always
Yes.
there. And even now, sometimes when I'm with my family in the city, if they come to visit, we'll run into Lincoln Center to grab a drink or a snack and kind of just hang out. So even if you're up at the Rose Hill campus and vice versa, they're kind of just like homes away from home. The other campus will always be a part of your Fordham experience as much as you want it to be. But speaking of the Ram van, I think since we don't have current students here, it's nice to kind of just share what like a day in the life or like a weekend would look like at Fordham. But if anyone does want to talk to current students after this, Rose used to lead the tour guide society and now I lead. So we're both very well connected to current students, so we can connect you there. But I think the biggest part of student life at Fordham will kind of be up to you. Some people definitely embrace the city more than others. Some embrace campus more than others. But I would say like a typical weekend at Fordham for a resident student who's living in a dorm, maybe would be like Friday night, go to some kind of show on campus, go out to dinner on Arthur Avenue if you're up at Rose Hill, or in Hell's Kitchen if you're down at Lincoln Center. Maybe on Saturday go to a football game, or if you're not as into sports, you could go rush a show down in the city and see a Broadway show for like $25. Take the Ram van to and from, and then probably Saturday night, just hang out with friends, grab dinner on campus, and then on Sunday, kind of do your homework. And I think that's the beauty of Fordham, is that you have the city there to just do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, but you still also have a true campus, whether you're at Lincoln Center or Rose Hill. You do feel like you're at college. And I think that's just so much of the fun of Fordham, is that you can, be in the middle of the busiest city in the US one minute, and then on a quiet little piece of grass somewhere on campus the next day. So I think that's a really big part of our student life, is being in New York City, which is obviously reflected in the internships as well. We have some questions coming in.
It's a question about Greek life. And so we do not have Greek life at Fordham. We have over 168 clubs and organizations across the 2 campuses. So if something sounds fun and interesting for you to sign up, or for you to be a part of, you just sign up. We have on the first Wednesday of classes at each campus, we have a club fair. So we have all the clubs. So for example, at Rose Hill, we have all the clubs represented at tables around Eddie's Parade, which is our great lawn in the center of campus. And so every club and organization will be represented there. And, you have first year students, you even have upper class students go around and they sign up for things that they want to be a part of. Being a tour guide in the admission office is one of those things. So we have a table there. And, I think, like, for example, and not to talk about tour guides because they're in the admission office, but, I think, the question about Greek life and do you have Greek life, it's the purpose of that. And there are students who it's a non-negotiable, right? You may want Greek life no matter what. And like, that's your thing for whatever the reason may be. And what I was planning on mentioning is that, people want to be part of Greek life to feel a part of something, right? To be part of a community. And so if that's your thing and that you have to have Greek life, then that's fine. But I would say at least explore the schools that do not have Greek life, at least see and ask, what other ways are you able to form community? And at Fordham, I think the really cool thing is, and I'll use this example only because, we're talking about being part of a society, an organization, kind of like a, I don't even know how to explain it, Laura. I ran the tour guide association for 6 years, and it's like, I don't want to say it's like a secret society, but it's like they feel, and they're all volunteers. There are about 185 just at Rose Hill, and there are about 65 at Lincoln Center. They feel like they are a part of something greater. They feel like they are part of like this tight-knit group who volunteer their time to give tours and to talk to prospective students, who get to have the cool windbreakers that say RHS or LCS, which means Rose Hill Society or Lincoln Center Society, with their name on it. And that's one example of so many other examples at Fordham of how students stay engaged, stay involved. I think one of the things you're in a very unique point in time where you're doing your college search process, because like kind of the conversations we've been having is like, we're framing them as pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? So it's like, you want to know as a student looking at a college, university, how are students engaging with one another, whether that be virtually in the classroom or online or in person on campus. And it's certainly something that's new for us to have to talk with students about. So when we go out on the road, if you will, AKA when we have more of these virtual, info sessions and things like that with high school students, it's something that is going to be asked a lot more of, what was this past year like specifically when you moved to online? Were students feeling supported? Did they feel like they were a part of something? And now the communications are trickling in from a student life standpoint of, we had something that we typically always have had in person, Urban Plunge. And I'll have Laurel talk about Urban Plunge because I think did you participate in that?
I didn't participate in it, but I know a little
but
bit about it.
People. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Urban Plunge, and I'll have Laurel explain quickly about that, but that's a perfect example of how that's been moved to an online format. And you're like, how can that be online? Because a lot of what you do is community service based in the neighborhoods and doing things. But we've transitioned to making our student body at both campuses continue to feel a part of something greater, and to want and be excited to come back to Fordham if they're an upper class student, or to be part of the Fordham community officially by being a first year student. So like, for example, Laurel, if you want to talk quickly about Urban Plunge.
Yeah, I definitely think, Rose and I are probably testaments to this, just that we're returning to Fordham, and Rose has been at Fordham for so long. There's definitely a reason for that. The community aspect at Fordham, I think, is our best asset. I know, being from Florida, I don't have a single family member within 3 or 4 hours of New York. So it was really important to me to go to a school where I felt like they were going to care about me, they were going to take care of me, and that I was going to make friends who genuinely cared about me, because I was so far from anyone who knew me. And Fordham definitely has a very, very strong community. People really care about each other. They really do want to get to know each other. And that trickles down from your professors, your RAs, your roommates, and the people in your hall. So I think that we don't have Greek life or don't have different aspects in that way. But I think the community is found in other places. And one place definitely great to start is Urban Plunge. That's always offered a week before freshmen move in, only for freshmen, but it's led by upperclassmen and people on campus in different capacities, where you kind of just get to know each other. And then you can also go out into the Bronx and kind of learn about the Bronx, learn about New York City, do some different partnerships with different nonprofits in the Bronx, and kind of just learn about the community you're about to live in for 4 years. Or if you're down at Lincoln Center, same thing, you'll go out into the city and kind of meet different community partners that way. We also have so many different, definitely Rose Hill Society, which are the tour guides. They definitely have a special bond, and they are close for life.
Yep.
And you'll also find that through Global Outreach. You'll find that through Mimes and Mummers, which is one of our performing arts, different a cappella groups. They really do form these incredibly strong bonds. I still live with my roommate from Fordham, who I met because we were tour guides, and now we're 26 years old living together. So you will definitely find that the community at Fordham is extremely compassionate and caring for each other. So I think that has really pushed us through this time in COVID. People still feel so connected to each other at Fordham just because it was so strong to start with. So I think that is just, so if you walk away not remembering anything about Fordham, I think if that's what you're looking for, that's what you should definitely remember. But we only have about 8 minutes left, and I see some questions come in that I can blast off some answers. What percent of international students? I think we're at about 14% last year. International students. So they're coming from all around the world, but we see a lot of students coming from China. Do we have public health as a major? We have a pre-health track, so that would be something that you could just kind of tack onto a major, where you have an advisor. Can we talk more about housing and if it's guaranteed? If you apply asking for housing, it is guaranteed for all 4 years if you're admitted with housing. And then if you come to campus as a commuter and then decide later that you want housing, you can always apply for housing. But yes, it's guaranteed if you're admitted with housing. What are the
Any support
minimums?
for oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Any support for LD students? So yes, we have through our Office of Disability Services, we have a range of options for our students and their families to make outreach to disability services to see what we can accommodate. And so whether that be additional test time, if you need accommodations, with your scheduling, completing assignments and things like that. Our Office of Disability Services communicates with professors to give them the information that they need for your accommodations. But it is important that you reach out to the Office of Disability Services to see if we can accommodate what you need. And in terms of, documentation or anything like that, if students have IEPs, et cetera, during the time of applying to Fordham, certainly any supporting documentation can be sent to us from the admission office to consider for your application. Okay. What are the minimums in terms of standardized tests and GPA to be considered for scholarship? So at this point, we'll transition to applying to Fordham. Laurel and I will talk about briefly the application process, knowing that we do have a lot of updated information that will be forthcoming to be placed on our website, because I've had the privilege of sitting in the test optional committee over this summer, actually since March, I think it was, when we were debating on if we were going to move in that direction. And so we have worked really hard to come to this point, and for us, it's a pretty monumental time in Fordham's history, being that we are now moving or have moved in the direction of allowing students to decide whether or not they want to submit their standardized testing. So we'll get into that in a second, but basically our overall framework is we have a few rounds for students to choose from if they're considering applying to Fordham. We are exclusively on the common application. You can utilize November 1st, which is early action, early decision, and priority performance tracks. Priority performance is if you're applying to our dance or theater program, in which it's not only application-based, but audition/interview based as well. If you're applying early decision, and Laurel, if you want to, you could take early action. If you're applying early decision, you are saying that Fordham is the school for you. So there was an earlier question about tracking demonstrated interest. Do you track it? And while we track how many touch points you've made with us since sophomore year, so whether you've come for a visit in person, maybe you took advantage of some virtual offerings that we've had since we suspended campus visitation. Maybe you took a virtual tour before COVID and you were just checking out our campuses online. We do see that, and that will pop up in your application, but we do not formally make decisions on that in terms of your admission to Fordham. But when you are applying early decision, you're raising your hand saying, I am interested, right? So you are letting us know your interest of Fordham, and that if accepted, you will enroll at Fordham. You'll deposit and you will be a Fordham round. With that being said, applying early decision versus early action, you have to make sure you're checking off all the boxes that it is a good fit socially, academically, financially. All three of those things have to check out. And we have resources for you to see if early decision from a financial standpoint would be a good route for you and your family to take. But now if you apply early action, Laurel, if you want to take that real quick.
Yeah. So like Rose said, early decision is you've pretty much made your decision that you will attend Fordham. So sometimes it can be confusing, early decision versus early action. Early action is just saying that you've taken action early, you've applied early, you're going to hear earlier, you're going to have more time to decide. So early action is also due November 1st, but it gives you that little bit of wiggle room. So if maybe you haven't yet visited Fordham, or you don't feel like you have understood it enough yet, but you do want to apply early, you can do early action. And then I think another important piece is just that with early action, you can hear about your financial aid package before ultimately deciding if you can enroll at Fordham. So some people definitely have different scholarships that they already have available, maybe from a church or a high school or something like that, and they know that they can afford whatever. But no matter where you're applying, if you do early decision, I would say definitely think about financials. But early action, like Rose said, it's going to be due November 1st. You'll hear back usually by Christmas from us, and then you'll have usually until May 1st to decide if you want to come to Fordham. Whereas with early decision, you'll hear back usually by Christmas, and you'll know on that day if you're coming to Fordham or not.
Right. And with early decision, if you fill out the proper paperwork, so the FAFSA, CSS profile that's needed for need and institutional aid, you could be considered for need and institutional aid, and you'll have your award letter. And then merit-based scholarships, you'll automatically be considered for. The other round that you can utilize is January 1st. That's regular decision. And so that's okay too if you need to wait for whatever reason, especially now, given what transcripts might look like, testing or lack thereof for testing, if you're planning on sitting for an exam, then a lot of our students who apply to us will utilize the January 1st deadline of regular decision, in which you'll find out of your admission decision by April 1st. And so depending on what the best round for you to apply is, we want to make sure you put your best foot forward. Like Laurel mentioned earlier, we have a holistic review. So we're looking at your Common application. We're looking at your Common App essay. Testing, if you want to provide ACT or SAT to us. Again, this is completely up to you to decide if you want to provide your testing. So wish this was an option for me when I was applying to Fordham years ago. I don't know about you, Laurel, but I think that's really great for students now, given what is going on in with the pandemic and the access to testing, or just the anxiety of sitting for an exam. I think that this is definitely something that can benefit the student, and where you can focus on other aspects of your application. In absence of testing, we are requiring an additional 150 word short response, and we are making optional another 150 word short response for you to tell us a little bit more about who you are, and the value of you joining our community, and what we can on the flip side, how we can value or benefit from you joining our community. And so we're really excited about that, because I think it'll enable students to have their application personalized even more and highlight other aspects. We look at extracurricular activities. We look at if you have a part-time job. We look at if you care for a family member. All of these things. We have the additional information section on the Common application. I highly recommend, and I say this to students all the time, if there's anything on your transcript, which is another huge component, it is the main component that we look at when we are evaluating you for admission. If there's something on your transcript that you think, okay, maybe they won't see that C my sophomore year. No, we're going to see it. We're going to see the C. But if you want to explain, maybe you didn't grasp that material. Maybe something happened. Maybe you had an ill family member, or maybe you yourself were sick. Maybe you had a concussion from a sport. Whatever the case is, the additional information section is there for a reason. Utilize it if you feel, and your counselor will let you know. You talk with your counselor and can advise you appropriately if that would be good for you. But I always want to put that out there, because sometimes students feel that they should copy and paste their resume or something like that in that section, and that's fine, but be very thoughtful about how you want to utilize that section. But the last piece is the transcript, and then of course one academic letter of recommendation. But the transcript, we're looking at your coursework over the course of at least 3 years. Sometimes we'll see some of senior year. We look at not only your overall GPA, but your individual grades. We look at your rigor, how you've chosen to challenge yourself, because we're going to challenge you when you're at Fordham. And so we want to make sure that you're taking all of that in, and you're taking advantage of the opportunities that you have within the parameters of your school. And then the letter of recommendation, Laurel, if you want to do really quickly, talk about that.
Yeah, so we require one letter of recommendation. You're always welcome to send more. So if you want to have maybe your counselor and a teacher send a letter. I know when I applied to colleges, I did really poorly in geometry. So I had my geometry teacher send a letter saying, you know, she tried really hard, but she's really bad at geometry. So just kind of think about those things who you want to ask, but we do require at least one. And I am leading an info session for Fordham at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to head out, but I'm going to send my information in the chat. So wait, I think I only sent that to the panelists. Let me send it to all attendees. So if you want to email me, I cover Bergen and Middlesex County high schools. So feel free to do that, but I'm going to dip out so I can go prepare for that.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thanks, Laurel.
You too.
Good luck. And so in terms of the application process, that is, that's pretty much what we're looking for. We're going to have updated information on our website. I'm hopeful within the next week or so of other things of what we're looking for, you know, in more detail from what I've just mentioned. But definitely shifting tides for us, moving into a test optional format. I'm not sure about how you all feel about it, but I was kind of relieved for you all because listen, I mean, you have students who certainly do well and excel on the standardized test portion, but then you have students who don't, and it's not reflective of the academic work that they're able to take on day to day, which for us we feel is you know, the real you know, telltale of how you'll be able to do when you're at Fordham. So we're really excited about that. And I actually don't think that any other admission counselor from Fordham at this point has really done a formal kind of getting out in front of other, you know, students to share this news. So I'm excited to be one of the first to share this with a group of students now that we've made the decision to do that. Obviously, if we're going to be playing a Division I sport at Fordham and we have 22, you'll need to sit for an exam, ACT or SAT, for NCAA eligibility purposes. That's different from admission. So you don't need that from the admission office unless you're a football player. That's different because, you know, we do need that for admission purposes. But that's an example of how, you know, depending on the school you're looking at, whether it's Fordham or not, there are some exceptions to, you know, test optional. Does a certain subset have to still submit testing? And so just to be clear, for us, it's only if you're a Division I athlete, you'll still need to sit and actually take an exam, at least as of today, for NCAA purposes. But yeah, so in terms of scholarship, though, like we touched upon before, you will not be, you know, at more of an advantage if you submitted testing versus if you're a non-test submitter for merit-based scholarship. It'll be an even playing field. In terms of being qualified for merit-based scholarships from our admission office, which I think is important. We'll have an update to that and what the criteria for that will look like in the next few weeks, so keep an eye out on that. I think there may be a couple of other questions. And it's around test optional. So yes, this is at least for 2 years, this test optional policy. But again, you know, don't quote me here, but it's when you go test optional, and if it fares well for you, for the institution, it's kind of hard to go back on that and to go in the other direction. So we are at least test optional for the next 2 admission cycles. We do have performing arts as a major. We have that at our Lincoln Center campus. So we do have our top-ranked dance and theater programs offered at Lincoln Center. You can go on our website to see exactly, you know, the 4 distinctive tracks within theater. We have dance as well at Lincoln Center, but we also have the opportunity for our students to participate in performing arts in an extracurricular sense. So we have Rose Hill, we have Collins Auditorium. It's the main hall where we have theater and production put on, plays, musicals, all of that. So we have a bunch of ways where students could be involved at both campuses from an extracurricular standpoint. I don't know, Jen, if there were any other questions. I don't see any popping up in the
I don't think
Q&A.
so. I thought that was really thorough. I like the format of that. I thought it was very conversational and you kept it real. So
Yeah, that's what, we want to try to humanize the process as much as possible. There's a lot of anxiety out there with everything going on and what transcripts might look like, pass fail versus letters and number grades. And so, the thing that we want to just kind of convey is that we're all in this, not to sound cliche, we're all in this together, and this is a certainly a momentous time in history for all of us, whether we're professionals or you as students and the way that you're learning. I don't think I've ever conducted a Zoom before being quarantined and during this pandemic. I didn't even have a Zoom app on my phone. So this is due. I think I'm trying to master the whole Zoom thing, but we'll see. But yeah, that's what we want to do. We kind of want to just make sure that students are, understanding that we're humans too, reviewing the applications, and we just want to know who you are. We want to learn more about you and why you want to be part of our community. And we're being very thoughtful and intentional on, how we're evaluating that, especially with the current events that are taking place. We want to know who's going to be on our campuses and what they're going to be up to. So
thanks. And if students that, since Fordham's not too far away from some of the New Jersey students, if they wanted to walk around, get a feeling of it, is the campus sort of kind of open for that?
Yeah, so at this point, we do not, we will not be having visitors on campus, at least until, I want to say at least October. We could be revisiting that to see what that might look like towards the end of the semester. We have a ton of virtual offerings for students, and so we landed in a pretty good place with our virtual offerings, with just taking guided virtual tours. So if you don't want to sit for an info session and hear kind of a lot of what I just, Laurel and I spoke about, you can hear directly and only from a student leader on campus, a tour guide, who will take you through our 2 campuses. So we have that option. We have Unibuddy, which is just, you can basically very informally, text questions and want to know more about the student experience. So we have that option on our website. You can just email, a student, an admission rep. But when we are able to welcome students and families back onto campus, we will do so willingly and, with proper PPE when the time comes. So we are excited and, when we can have people back on campus, but at this point, we're unable to. And we have everything on our website too for students to see, prospective students to see how we're handling the reopening of campus and bringing back students and faculty and administrators. So you could see that whole reopening plan. You could see what our virtual learning platform is like. And just to wrap up in a few minutes, but, we're giving students the option if they want to do everything online, if they want to be in the classroom, or if they want to do a flex hybrid model of the two. Whether they want to take all of their classes online but be in their residence hall, if they want to take all their classes online being at home, if they want to do half their classes online in their res hall and the other half, in person. If they're a commuter or they're living off campus, they have the same options. So, we're really trying to just work with students and their families to make the best decision for each nuanced case that a student brings during these unprecedented times. So
Great. And then where can people find you if they need any more information?
Yeah, so my email, I will type in the chat here, and it's going to go to all panelists. Just bear with me here. RO at fordham.edu. So Rose Leo, you might see Rose Ellen, I'll put in parentheses here. So I have all of those other counties. We have another New Jersey rep who has Burlington County, Monmouth, Ocean counties. Um, his name is Michael Dahlgren. So he's on our website. You could find his information. But we basically have 3 New Jersey reps for a reason. We've got a lot of students who come from there. And so a lot of interest there. And when I talk to students from New Jersey, my other territory I used to have a few years back was Missouri. And so you can imagine totally different conversations I would have with students from one state to the other. When you're in New Jersey, you're at a college fair or high school visit. Somebody knows somebody who went to Fordham, somebody's neighbor's grandpa went to Fordham, went to the graduate school. I know there was a question about graduate schools. We do have 6 graduate and professional schools as well. So whether somebody went to Fordham undergrad, went to Fordham Law, whatever the case is, somebody knows somebody in New Jersey from Fordham. And when you go to Missouri or another distant market, sometimes you're having conversations and they say, where did you say you're from? Florida? And it's like, no, Fordham in New York. So sometimes you're having a very different conversation. And I mean, even still in other distant markets, you're having people who know Fordham very well outside the United States. And so I think that's another great option. A lot of great alumni who are in the States and outside of the United States who are doing great things post Fordham. So definitely check us out more on the website. But, when I say to kids or students from New Jersey, I say, you're far enough where you're on campus and you're having a campus life experience. You're over that GW bridge, but close enough where if you forget your winter coat, somebody can bring it back to you and they don't have to ship it, overnight and spend a ton of money for you to get it. So kind of the perks there.
It does cost $15 for your parents to come and visit you. So they're probably not going to visit you that often.
It does, unless they want to go to Arthur Avenue and, pick up a lot of food for home. But yeah,
it could get expensive, those tolls.
$15. I try not to look at my Easy Pass account, making those trips to the shore every weekend in summer. But
yeah,
what are you going to do, right?
It's worth it though.
Totally worth it. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for being a part of today. I will report
absolutely
great feedback to Betsy.
I love Betsy.
Oh, we just got a message. You didn't send your email to everyone.
Oh my goodness. How did I not do that?
I know. Okay. Confusing. So it's here.
I went into the chat.
Here it is.
To all,
you can do it to all panelists and attendees. I just did it.
I apologize, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so I retract the statement I said before about being a Zoom wizard because I'm clearly not there yet. But maybe at the end of this year I will be. So thanks everyone for your patience with me there.
Yeah. Thank you. And
all right, thank you.
Good rest of your summer.
Yes, you all as well. Take care of yourselves. Have a great summer. Enjoy just, enjoy all the blessings you have. As bad as things could be or have been, over the past few months, things could definitely be worse. So, I found if you have the attitude of having the glass half full versus half empty, it could carry you through these tough times. And we look forward to learning more about Fordham. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or any of the other Jersey reps. And let me know, if you're on campus when that day comes. I'm very optimistic that it will be sometime soon. When the day comes that you're on campus and you see me, definitely let me know that you were in this webinar and we'll catch up.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.